This is why the Orlando Magic should draft Paolo Banchero, not Jabari Smith Jr. The Orlando Magic have the #1 overall pick, and there are honestly only 3 real options they can choose from: Chet Holmgren, Paolo Banchero, and Jabari Smith Jr. So far, it seems like from all the sources I've been reaching, the Orlando Magic have their eyes set on Jabari Smith Jr. and haven't shown too much interest toward the other 2 prospects to make me think this isn't final. But then again, the draft is still 3 weeks away, so anything is possible. When it comes to the first pick, you probably need to pick which prospect you think will be the best overall, but I feel like this is a draft where you might need to consider fit into play as a factor as well, because there is no clear-cut #1 talent. All 3 of these prospects have very few weaknesses with low bust potential. I do feel like Jabari Smith has the highest floor as a stretch big who can really move his feet defensively pretty well. He's the safest pick, and that's what I hate about him going #1. The Orlando Magic have always kind of been a team to take the safe pick, which has worked out in some cases, but Orlando needs a #1 very badly. A go-to scorer in the clutch that you could put all your faith in. Cole Anthony and Franz Wagner are good scorers, but when you really compare them to the rest of the league, if you ask me which team I trust most in the clutch, I'd pick Orlando dead last. And this isn't to say that Jabari Smith can't be a go-to option, but let's be honest, his lack of handle, lack of playmaking, and just the fact that as a #1, just like at Auburn, he's going to have to hit some very tough shots, and I trust Banchero a lot more to create a good look. I think as much as I am quote-unquote slandering Jabari Smith, when in reality I like the prospect but he just has some flaws, he still has a decent chance to be a 25 point per game scorer, even if I think it's unlikely. Also, I am not even including Chet in these conversations for the simple fact that Chet will never be a reliable #1 option. But the Orlando Magic will be nearly last in the NBA once again next year, and if you want a Chet-like player, you can hope to get Victor Wembanyama. I'm gonna have to get used to saying that name. I'll make a video on him later. And this isn't me hating on Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony, Franz, Wendell, but let's be honest, there are only 30 #1 options in the league, and the sooner you find yours for the future, the easier and more time you have to put an elite team around him. Now, there are 2 major questions about Banchero that might have Magic scouts and Magic fans concerned: 3-point shooting and defense. Let's start with the 3-point shooting. He shot 33.8% from 3 in the season with Duke on 3.3 attempts per game. 3.3 3-point attempts per game shows that he is definitely a willing shooter, and teams were guarding him in college, meaning that he is for sure a threat. I don't think he'll be an elite shooter in the NBA, but with how much force he is on the drive and his mid-range, I don't think him shooting average 3-point efficiency is crazy, and it's really all you need. But maybe I'm lowballing it, because in his last 5 games of the season, aka the NCAA March Madness tournament, he shot 10 for 19 from 3, which is crazy. And with all the shooting trainers in the NBA nowadays, I think he'll be just fine. And in terms of his defense, he has the tools to be a threat on that end of the court for sure. But from what he's shown in college, he was pretty lazy or clueless at times when it came to off-ball defense, and while sometimes he can be able to keep up with guards on a switch and a pick-and-roll defense, he honestly gets blown by a decent amount. It's honestly all about effort. You hope for him to be at least an average defender eventually, but I wouldn't be too worried about the off-ball awareness or effort. I feel like a lot of freshmen in college have that problem as well, and it gets solved in the NBA, and you really just learn that more over time. But he needs to work on his lateral quickness in order to hold his own in the NBA, where it's starting to get very switch-all. But other than those 2 things, Banchero has all the tools to be an elite #1. His frame has been compared to LeBron James, Ben Simmons, Blake Griffin. He can get to the rim at will, has excellent playmaking for his position, can hit the mid-range, he's a very willing shooter, he's elite at off-ball cutting. He would just make every other Orlando Magic's player's job on offense a lot easier. And the Magic have defensive pieces like Suggs, Wendell, Wagner, maybe Isaac if he returns. For being a team heavily lacking in talent, 19th best defense is very good with your best defender being out all year, and also for a rookie head coach. Sometimes you just gotta swing for the fences in my opinion. While Jabari Smith excels at both of Banchero's weaknesses, I see him as a piece. In this scenario, Houston takes him at 3, where I think he'll excel next to Jalen Green. I also think Banchero has a lot of potential to be a small ball 5, which is very good, because I'm not sure if the Orlando Magic is bringing back Mo Bamba, and Wendell Carter might get into some foul trouble later in games. So if he could just step up in that 5 spot and be a really good, playmaker and creator, he could probably blow by past a lot of centers. He just really needs to develop a rim protecting mold. I finally have a direction for my channel for the offseason, so expect a lot more uploads, lots of NBA draft, rankings, and prediction videos. Like this video, subscribe, and peace.